the moment when Aemond lands Vhagar on the patio where they had the whole reception and just smashes the like tents and tables that were out there. Do you think the Westerosi event planners have just like thrown their hands up at this point and they're like, why do we ever even bother to plan anything?
Vhagar is so big, like Vhagar doesn't fit in the dragon pit. Like
Vhagar
is the size of a football field and a half.
What are they going to do?
It's unbelievable. And I loved that. I loved that about the claiming sequence too. Like the heft is really so well presented. These camera angles that just exacerbate. Like Aemond looks like a little speck of sand standing there. I loved that one shot where, because we see, and this was cool too, you know, even though Aemond didn't have a dragon in the prior episode, we know here it's really cemented. Like he's paying attention, studying, he's ready with these Velaryon commands.
With the commands,
which was huge. You know, knows what to do, and the way that like Vhagar can turn and see him trying to grab and climb the ropes, but that one head-on shot where like her face.
You mean Chekhov's ropes that were dangling off of Vhagar? Yeah,
you called that. I thought that was all. That was also amazing, and the way that like the shaking him off and the straight ascent and descent, and like the way that he passes that test and what that cements in that moment was just really extraordinary. And it's like, I guess we should note a couple things about the Fire and Blood version, because one of the inciting incidents in the text is that Viserys is kind of like, if you're bold enough, not about Vhagar specifically, that's something he does on his own, but Viserys tells him that, because they're going to be the Dragonstone.
Swing my Dragonstone, yeah.
Go get an egg if you're bold enough. If the lad is bold enough is the quote. And then it continues, even at 10, Aemond Targaryen did not lack for boldness. The king's jibe stung, and he resolved not to wait for Dragonstone. What did he want with some puny hatchling or some stupid egg? Right there at high tide was a dragon worthy of him. Vhagar, the oldest, largest, most terrible dragon in the world. Great stuff.
And I mean, I like in this episode how it's like he keeps hearing Vhagar's song like throughout the episode.
And like the shadow.
That makes it much more like that sort of mystical, magical animal bond stuff that you like, where it's like the call. Yeah. The
Kyber crystal might as well be calling to him.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, we need to give Aemond his credit here. He's about to say some shitty things, so we'll talk about that in a second. But like, he did something very extraordinary here.
Incredible.
And like, you know, if I'm sitting here saying I wish we had seen young Laena do this, because what a badass thing. What a badass thing for this young boy to do this. So congratulations, Aemond Two Eyes, while you're still Aemond Two Eyes.
God. I always loved the book description. Call it boldness, call it madness, call it the fortune or the will of the gods. Yeah, it's great. Okay.
Well, but also that quote also has the, what is it? The capriciousness of dragon? What does it say?
Yeah, the caprice of dragons. Who can know the mind of such a beast?
Yeah, we did get some questions from people. I didn't pull any specific emails about this, but we got some questions from people of like, how can Vhagar, who had Laena, someone as like cool as Laena as a writer, then bond to Aemond? Like, what is a dragon looking for in a writer, etc. Again, it's caprice. We don't know what these dragons are looking for, and they don't often claim or always claim or are claimed by people with similar personalities necessarily.
Right. Great point. Great point. Time to talk about an eye for an eye. Before we get to the fur and eye part. Let's first talk about an eye. Joe. Absolutely harrowing scene. But let's start with a change that they made that really worked for the better, which is who spots the Vhagar claiming in the first place.
And we talked about this in the book section last week because the trailer gave us a little clue to this, because we had, I think it's Rhaena saying, or maybe Bella, I can't tell, but like one of them saying like someone's taking Vhagar, waking Jace up. So in the book, it's Joff, who's like 3, I think, at this point.
Young tot, wee tot, yeah.
And they were like, Joff, who could never sleep. So apparently he was like just a toddler wandering around often.
Dude, same, yeah.
Yeah. This toddler with insomnia discovers that Aemond is doing this. And there's just already this deep animosity between Alicent's kids and Rhaenyra's kids. And so it's the fight just comes from we hate each other vibes out of the book. And I like how much more complicated it is here because you add in, first of all, it takes place at Laenor's funeral, not Laena's funeral. So it's like less egregious, I suppose. And then to have Rhaena, who we've established as a kid who, like Aemond, is like doesn't have a dragon and feels insecure about it, was, I guess, planning, had it down in her
claim.
Yeah. Had it down in her calendar to claim Vhagar. And Aemond just beat her to the punch here. So that makes it just so much more personal, which again also makes Jason Luke that much more heroic that they get involved here. Because basically, like, Joff sees Aemond trying to claim Vhagar and is like, don't do that. And then Aemond just pushes Joff down. So when Aemond's on his flight, Joff runs and gets the boys and comes back. And all three of the boys attack. And the girls aren't even there. All three of the boys attack Aemond and the fight goes from there.
Right.
It's so much more virtuous for Jason Luke. I mean, first of all, it's fun that the girls are there. I liked watching Baela punch Aemond. That was really fun, right? But again, I think it puts Jason Luke in the much more like Jon Snow, Robb Stark sort of model for them to be there to like protect their cousins rather than boys will be boys and fight each other with knives, I guess. So
yeah. No, I think it's a great point about how personal it all feels here. And like the vitriol, obviously the violence, given that it's 5 children like pummeling each other, is really, really horrific and hard to watch. But it's not just the shock of the physical nature of this fight, like the deeply cold and cruel sentiments that are being hurled here. Steve, can we get this full exchange here?
It's him.
It's me.
Vhagar is my mother's dragon.
Your mother's dead. Vhagar has a new rider now.
She was mine to claim.
Then you should have claimed her. Maybe your cousins can find you a pig to ride. It would suit you.
I mean,
I think it is tough to reframe it in that moment, but I will say I think this is such a marked difference between this Aemond and the one we saw at the funeral, who is smiling feebly over the brazier at Jace. So how much does becoming the rider of Vhagar change this kid's attitude? It's night and day, right? You know? Yeah. Yeah. It's a real come up for Aemond. Yeah.